Recently, the Department of Defense announced that China is responsible for cyber attacks against the United States. And that has us wondering, are cyber attacks a clear and present danger?
Absolutely. Cyber attacks today range from cyber vandalism, where you've got 13-year-olds who want to show their girlfriend how cool they are and write them a love note in the form of an attack on the internet, to cyber criminals who are actually interested in creating economic wealth for themselves by exploiting the information and the data that you have available to you, all the way up to nation states who are interested in projecting power into cyberspace. We'd like to break attacks down into two different categories. One is essentially a denial of service attack. The goal of one of these kinds of attacks is essentially to block access to an important resource that you might have. And the other kind of attacks that you were talking about, the information stealing attacks or espionage attacks, we're interested in actually getting something useful out of your computer.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about a nation state type of attack. How are they able to pull this off? How does that sort of thing work?
Sure, it actually proceeds very much like a normal attack might if you were a cyber criminal or a cyber vandal. You start by first trying to get access to some resource within the network that you're targeting. Oftentimes this is done through a simple phishing or social engineering attack.
So can you give us an example of what nation states are stealing and why it's bad for the U.S.?
Right, so one of the competitive advantages that we have in the United States is this innovation economy. The idea that we create wealth through the creation of new intellectual property. That intellectual property oftentimes is stored digitally, unlike, say, for example, in olden times, a printing press, where if you wanted to make a copy of the printing press, you either needed physical copies of the blueprints, or you had to be able to get in and see how the machine actually worked. Here, I could actually make a perfect digital replica of your blueprints and take them out of your network, take them out of your organization without ever having set foot inside of your network.
What are some of the solutions we can act? Is there such a thing as a secure location?
If you want to secure something, you lock it in a room, you put a Marine you lock the door, you put a Marine at the edge of the door, you ask everybody for an ID when you get back in. So there's a risk, inherently there's a risk. There's no such thing as a secure system. Unless you're going to go and lock something in a room, you're not going to get security. So we're going to trade that off. We're going to make decisions about flexibility, the ease of use of the technology, and the security of the information that we put on it.
Okay, so now that the Department of Defense has come out and said that this is actually China who's attacking us and not a gangster or a 12-year-old kid trying to impress his girlfriend, what can you say about that?
What's interesting is that we can finally have a dialogue as a society about the fact that we see and have acknowledged that there are these other countries that view cyberspace as another theater in cyber war and as a mechanism to project their own ideals and their own visions for society into the world. So I think that's what's really compelling about this. It's not so much that we didn't know that this was happening before, we always suspected. It's not so much that the technology itself is very difficult to understand or new or innovative. It's now that it's out in the open, we can have this kind of dialogue about how we should move forward as a country.